Hello friends, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're delving into a topic that might surprise you: the top 10 countries where Canadians might not receive the warmest of welcomes. From visa restrictions to political tensions, these destinations have their reasons for being less inviting to Canadians. Let's dive in. Russia. Despite the rich cultural heritage and stunning landscapes, Canadians may face challenges visiting Russia due to political tensions between the two nations. Visa requirements and strained diplomatic relations make Russia a less accessible destination for Canadians. Political tensions, human rights concerns, military operations, and geopolitical disagreements have all contributed to tense diplomatic relations between Russia and Canada. The ease of travel between the two nations may be impacted by these tensions, which may also lead to tighter visa regulations or travel warnings for Canadians planning trips to Russia. Visa requirements. Traveling to Russia as a Canadian citizen often requires obtaining a visa, which can involve a complex application process and substantial fees. Additionally, visa regulations may change periodically based on the evolving political climate and diplomatic relations between the two nations. This can add an extra layer of difficulty for Canadians planning a trip to Russia. Safety considerations. Beyond political tensions, travelers to Russia should also consider safety factors such as crime rates, transportation infrastructure, and health concerns. While major cities like Moscow and St. Petersburg offer modern amenities and tourist-friendly attractions, travelers should exercise caution and stay informed about any security risks or travel advisories in the region. Overall, while Russia presents its own set of challenges for Canadian travelers, with careful planning and awareness of the political and safety landscape, visitors can still experience the country's rich culture, history, and natural beauty. Saudi Arabia. While Saudi Arabia has been opening up to tourism in recent years, Canadians might encounter difficulties due to diplomatic disputes and human rights concerns. Travel advisories and restrictions may deter Canadians from exploring this Middle Eastern kingdom. Tourism opening. In recent years, Saudi Arabia has made efforts to diversify its economy and promote tourism as part of its Vision 2030 initiative. This initiative aims to reduce the kingdom's dependency on oil revenue and open up new avenues for economic growth, including the tourism sector. As a result, the country has relaxed some restrictions on international visitors and introduced tourist visas for certain nationalities. Diplomatic disputes. Despite the tourism push, Saudi Arabia's diplomatic relations with Canada have been strained at times. In 2018, a diplomatic dispute erupted between the two countries following Canada's criticism of Saudi Arabia's human rights record. This dispute led to the expulsion of the Canadian ambassador and the suspension of new trade and investment with Canada by Saudi Arabia. While tensions have eased since then, the incident underscores the potential impact of diplomatic disputes on travel between the two countries. Human rights concerns. Saudi Arabia's human rights record, including issues such as women's rights, freedom of expression, and treatment of political dissidents, has drawn criticism from the international community, including Canada. Concerns about human rights abuses may deter some Canadians from visiting the kingdom or prompt them to reconsider their travel plans. Safety and security. While Saudi Arabia has taken steps to improve its tourism infrastructure and enhance safety measures for visitors, travelers should remain vigilant and stay informed about any security risks or travel advisories in the region. This includes being aware of cultural norms and customs, respecting local laws and traditions, and taking appropriate precautions to ensure a safe and enjoyable travel experience. Overall, while Saudi Arabia presents opportunities for tourism and exploration, Canadians should be aware of the potential challenges and considerations, including diplomatic tensions, human rights concerns, and safety considerations, when planning a visit to the kingdom. North Korea. Canadians are not welcome in North Korea due to its harsh authoritarian government and ongoing political tensions with Canada. Due to safety concerns and the lack of diplomatic presence, Canadians are cautioned against traveling to North Korea, where travel is severely restricted. Authoritarian regime. North Korea is known for its strict authoritarian regime, led by the Kim dynasty. The government tightly controls all aspects of life in the country, including media, information, and movement of its citizens. Foreign visitors, including Canadians, are subject to stringent regulations and surveillance during their stay. Political tensions, diplomatic relations between Canada and North Korea have been virtually non-existent due to North Korea's isolationist policies, nuclear ambitions, and human rights abuses. Canada has condemned North Korea's nuclear weapons program and its human rights record, aligning itself with international efforts to address these issues through sanctions and diplomatic pressure. Travel restrictions. Travel to North Korea is highly restricted for foreign nationals, including Canadians. The North Korean government tightly controls tourism in the country, with visitors required to book tours through state-approved travel agencies and adhere to strict itineraries. Independent travel is not permitted, and foreigners are closely monitored by government minders throughout their stay. Safety concerns. North Korea's isolation, political tensions, and lack of diplomatic representation pose significant safety concerns for Canadian travelers. In the event of a crisis or emergency, such as a natural disaster or political unrest, Canadians may face challenges in accessing consular assistance or evacuation services due to the absence of Canadian diplomatic missions in North Korea. Human rights abuse. North Korea's human rights record, including widespread political repression, forced labor camps, and limited freedoms, has drawn condemnation from the international community, including Canada. Canadians considering travel to North Korea should be aware of the risks associated with supporting a regime implicated in serious human rights abuses. Overall, while North Korea may hold a fascination for some travelers, Canadians are strongly advised against visiting due to the significant safety risks, lack of diplomatic representation, and ethical considerations associated with supporting an oppressive regime. It's essential for Canadians to prioritize their safety and well-being when considering travel to North Korea and to heed government travel advisories and warnings. Iran. Despite its rich history and cultural landmarks, Canadians may face challenges visiting Iran due to strained diplomatic relations and security concerns. Visa requirements and political tensions make Iran a less favorable destination for Canadian travelers. Strained diplomatic relations. Diplomatic relations between Canada and Iran have been strained for decades, with periodic disruptions and conflicts. In 2012, Canada severed diplomatic ties with Iran, citing concerns about Iran's nuclear program, human rights violations, and support for terrorist organizations. This lack of formal diplomatic representation can complicate travel arrangements and consular assistance for Canadian citizens visiting Iran. Visa requirements. Traveling to Iran as a Canadian citizen typically requires obtaining a visa, which can involve a detailed application process and approval from Iranian authorities. Visa regulations may vary depending on the purpose of travel, and travelers should carefully review the requirements and apply well in advance of their intended departure date. Political tensions. Iran's geopolitical dynamics and regional conflicts contribute to ongoing political tensions that may impact travel to the country. Canada's alignment with Western allies and its stance on issues such as nuclear proliferation and human rights can influence perceptions of Canadian travelers and interactions with Iranian authorities. Canadian tourists visiting Iran should be mindful of the potential effects of diplomatic tensions and security concerns, even though the country has a lot to offer in terms of cultural experiences and historical riches. Through meticulous organization, considerate interaction, and compliance with regional regulations and traditions, tourists can discover Iran's abundant legacy and interact with its hospitable populace. Yemen. Ongoing conflict and security risks in Yemen make it an extremely hazardous destination for Canadians, with travel advisories strongly discouraging visits. Canadians are urged to avoid all travel to Yemen due to the high threat of terrorism, kidnapping, and civil unrest. Ongoing conflict. Yemen has been embroiled in a devastating civil war since 2014, with various factions vying for control of the country. The conflict has resulted in widespread violence, including airstrikes, ground fighting, and humanitarian crises, leading to significant civilian casualties and displacement. The volatile security situation makes travel to Yemen extremely perilous for Canadians and other foreign nationals. Terrorism threat. Yemen is known as a hotbed for terrorist activity, including the presence of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, AQAP, and other extremist groups. These groups have carried out attacks against government and civilian targets, as well as kidnappings and hostage-taking of foreign nationals. The risk of terrorism remains high throughout the country, particularly in areas with weak government control or ongoing conflict. Yemen's ongoing conflict, terrorism threat, and humanitarian crisis make it one of the most dangerous destinations for Canadians and other foreign travelers. The high risk of violence, terrorism, and kidnapping necessitates extreme caution and avoidance of travel to Yemen until the security situation improves significantly. Venezuela. Travel advisories advise Canadians to avoid non-essential travel to Venezuela due to political unrest, economic instability, and safety concerns. While in Venezuela, Canadians may have trouble getting access to necessities and run the danger of being attacked. Economic instability. Venezuela has experienced severe economic challenges in recent years, marked by hyperinflation, currency devaluation, and shortages of essential goods and services. The economic crisis has led to widespread poverty, unemployment, and social unrest, impacting the quality of life for millions of Venezuelans and posing challenges for visitors to the country. Safety concerns. Venezuela has high levels of crime and violence, including street crime, armed robbery, and kidnappings. Foreign visitors, including Canadians, may be targeted for theft or extortion due to perceptions of wealth or vulnerability. Travelers are advised to exercise caution, particularly in urban areas and tourist destinations where criminal activity is more prevalent. Venezuela's economic instability, political turmoil, and safety concerns make it a challenging destination for Canadians and other foreign travelers. The combination of high crime rates, political unrest, and shortages of essential goods underscores the importance of exercising caution and staying informed when considering travel to Venezuela. Libya. Due to the ongoing conflict and security concerns, Canadians should not travel to Libya at all. Travel advisories strongly advise against it. Canada is advised against making any unnecessary trips to Libya because of the significant risk of terrorism, kidnapping, and armed conflict. Ongoing conflict. Libya has been in a state of turmoil since the overthrow of longtime dictator Muammar Gaddafi in 2011, with rival factions vying for control of the country. The power vacuum created by Gaddafi's ousting has led to ongoing political instability, fragmentation, and violence, including clashes between armed groups and government forces. The conflict has resulted in widespread displacement, destruction of infrastructure, and humanitarian crises, making Libya a highly volatile and dangerous environment for both residents and visitors. Terrorism threat. Libya has emerged as a hub for terrorist activity, with various extremist groups, including ISIS and al-Qaeda affiliates, exploiting the country's instability to establish strongholds and launch attacks. These groups target government officials, foreign nationals, and international organizations, posing a significant threat to security and stability in Libya and the broader region. Foreign visitors, including Canadians, are at heightened risk of kidnapping, terrorism, and other forms of violence while in Libya. In summary, Libya's ongoing conflict, security risks, and humanitarian crises make it one of the most dangerous destinations for Canadians and other foreign travelers. The high threat of terrorism, kidnapping, and armed conflict necessitates extreme caution and avoidance of travel to Libya until the security situation improves significantly. Syria. The ongoing civil war and humanitarian crisis in Syria make it an extremely hazardous destination for Canadians, with travel advisories strongly advising against all travel to the country. Canadians are urged to avoid all travel to Syria due to the high threat of terrorism, armed conflict, and kidnapping. Travel advisories. Global travel advisories, including those issued by the Government of Canada and other international bodies, strongly advise against all travel to Syria due to the extreme risks posed by conflict, terrorism, and kidnapping. Canadians in Syria or those considering travel to the country are urged to evacuate or avoid the country entirely if possible, and to exercise extreme caution if travel is unavoidable. In summary, Syria's ongoing humanitarian crisis and terrorism threat make it one of the most dangerous destinations for Canadians and other foreign travelers. The high threat of terrorism, armed conflict, and kidnapping necessitates extreme caution and avoidance of travel to Syria until the security situation improves significantly. Somalia. Widespread violence, terrorism, and piracy make Somalia one of the most dangerous destinations for Canadians, with travel advisories strongly advising against all travel to the country. Canadians are urged to avoid all travel to Somalia due to the high threat of terrorism, kidnapping, and piracy. Terrorism threat. Somalia has emerged as a hotspot for terrorist activity, with extremist groups such as Al-Shabaab carrying out frequent attacks targeting government institutions, security forces, and civilian populations. Al-Shabaab, an al-Qaeda affiliate, aims to overthrow the Somali government and establish an Islamic state governed by its strict interpretation of Sharia law. Foreign visitors, including Canadians, are at heightened risk of terrorism and violent extremism while in Somalia. Piracy. Somalia's coastline, particularly the waters off the Horn of Africa, has been plagued by piracy in recent years. Somali pirates have hijacked commercial vessels, fishing boats, and private yachts, often holding crew members and passengers hostage for ransom. The presence of armed groups and lack of effective maritime law enforcement contribute to the persistence of piracy in the region, posing a significant threat to maritime security and international shipping. Somalia's widespread violence, terrorism threat, kidnapping risk, piracy, and humanitarian crisis make it one of the most dangerous destinations for Canadians and other foreign travelers. The high threat of terrorism, kidnapping, and piracy necessitates extreme caution and avoidance of travel to Somalia until the security situation improves significantly. Iraq. Due to ongoing unrest, terrorism, and armed conflict, Iraq is a very dangerous place for Canadians to visit. Travel warnings strongly advise against visiting there at all. It is strongly advised that Canadians stay away from Iraq at all costs because of the great risk of terrorism, kidnapping, and armed warfare. Armed conflict. Iraq has been plagued by armed conflict, insurgency, and sectarian violence for decades, resulting in significant loss of life, displacement, and destruction of infrastructure. The country has been a battleground for various factions, including government forces, militias, and insurgent groups, leading to ongoing clashes and military operations in different parts of the country. The volatile security situation makes travel to Iraq extremely perilous for Canadians and other foreign nationals. Kidnapping risk. Kidnapping for ransom is a significant threat in Iraq, with criminal gangs, militias, and terrorist groups targeting foreigners, including diplomats, aid workers, journalists, and contractors, for financial gain or political leverage. Canadians and other Western nationals are viewed as lucrative targets due to perceptions of wealth and vulnerability. The risk of kidnapping remains high throughout Iraq, particularly in areas with weak government control or ongoing conflict. In summary, Iraq's ongoing instability, terrorism threat, armed conflict, kidnapping risk, and humanitarian challenges make it one of the most dangerous destinations for Canadians and other foreign travelers. The high threat of terrorism, kidnapping, and armed conflict necessitates extreme caution and avoidance of travel to Iraq until the security situation improves significantly. And there you have it, folks. The top 10 countries where Canadians might not be welcome. While these destinations may have their allure, it's essential to prioritize safety and heed travel advisories when planning your next adventure. Stay informed, stay safe, and happy travels. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more travel insights. Until next time, take care.